So it's that time of the week again. It's time for another Umbraco U Hangout. And today, I'm going to try and pronounce this right. And today I'm joined with Ondrej. Ondrej, is that kind of okay?
Yeah, well done,
Okay,
well done.
thank you. As with all of these, we start out by just getting to tell us how you got involved with Umbraco.
Sure. So hello everybody, and thanks for having me, inviting me for your hangouts. I'm really excited. I can share all the information about uSplit to all the people listening right now. Unfortunately, at this unhuman hour, 6 o'clock a.m. So excuse any errors I make. Still kind of fresh out of bed.
Nope, you're doing well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, right. So I joined Endzone. That's the company I work for about a year ago. We're a small startup.
Okay.
Yeah, I just got a year behind us right now. We started this product called Happy Porch, and at Happy Porch, we help digital agencies, overcome some pain points they have in their processes internally. Sometimes when you have a digital agency, you really want to focus on the niche that you're in, maybe building websites for hotels or for other industry,
Yep.
and having a dedicated IT team in your company might not really fit your needs. So whether you're looking to completely outsource your development or just help with certain things, that's what Happy Porch does. And through Happy Porch, uh, we actually, stumbled upon Umbraco. We're .NET developers, but we used other CMS systems in the past. We
Yep.
had even one own internal one, but once we found out about Umbraco and we got some experience using it, we just figured, it's so good that we don't really need to build anything like in-house or look at other options. It just was a perfect match. So I'm
Okay.
also,
Awesome.
yeah,
So it sounds
also,
like you guys haven't been using it for that long. If Happy Porch is a year or a couple of years old now.
yes, exactly. It's been just a year. Although, I must say I really love it. Like initially, maybe I had some problems getting into it. The documentation wasn't very detail, let's say, but unfortunately the community around Umbraco is great. So whenever I have problems, I usually use the Slack channel now,
Yep.
and yeah, it's just a breeze. And there are so many opportunities with Umbraco. It's really flexible, so that's why we like it. When whatever problem we have, we can always use Umbraco to that problem, and there's always a way to make it work and
Awesome.
make it work good. Yeah.
So how? So obviously you're going to talk about uSplit, so which is the tool or the product that you guys have built, which is
Yeah.
designed for A/B testing. How did that even come about?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's quite a bit of a history. So we started with Umbraco, as I said, about a year ago. But through working with this client, we've noticed a few gaps that Umbraco has.
Hmm.
So unfortunately, the community around Umbraco itself is also quite small, although it's growing rapidly, day by day.
Yep.
But there's been still some missing gaps. One thing we were looking into was personalization. So for people who are interested in this kind of thing, there was a really great talk on Code Garden,
Yep.
and I think it was given by Andy Batland,
Yep. It was Andy Badland and
Theo.
Theo. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name, but Theo P. We'll call him.
Yeah,
Yeah. Did.
Paskevopoulos. Yeah. I had a Greek flatmates at university. I should be able to pronounce these names, but unfortunately. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, anyway, so we were looking into personalization from
Yep.
Braco, but at least seemed like a fairly difficult feat. I will touch on that later, probably as I demo uSplit, because there's some similarities between personalization and A/B testing.
Yep. Hmm.
But basically, from that idea, just to simplify it a bit down, we were thinking about creating a plugin similar to uSplit. But in reality, the real push was from the clients themselves. There was a real need from our clients to do some A/B testing. It's a really powerful
Okay.
tool. So, we started thinking about creating this tool. And about a year ago, I just created a simple plugin that only drops a piece of JavaScript that you need to integrate with Google Analytics experiments. That worked fine, but just a few weeks leading to Code Garden, we were thinking, maybe we could use some of our time to improve this product. And we
Hmm.
spent a bunch of days and now created a really powerful A/B testing tool for Umbraco, which I'm really proud about. So I'm gonna show you
Nice.
something
Yeah.
what we built there. Yeah, yeah.
So maybe we should just jump straight into screen sharing and let's take a
Sure,
look.
sure, sure. Just for those who are listening and not really sure about what A/B testing is, I'm sure most of the people here know. But imagine you have a website and you're looking at specific pages and you want to maybe increase the conversions. Maybe you have a sale button and you want people to click on that, but they're really not clicking on that button.
Yep.
So you're thinking, what can I do to help me increase the conversions? So A/B testing is a great tool for this.
Hmm.
You can create variations of your page with some small tweaks, and you can test these pages against each other. So basically, you're sending just a portion of your traffic to each and every of the variations that you have, and you're checking the conversions for each variation separately. And once you see that there's a variation, maybe the button
Yep.
is of a red color, say, and that helps. So you just pick that variation as a winner, and you deploy that change to your site straight off. So it's a very powerful tool. It can be misused a lot. It's always better to test like in isolation, just like a single hypothesis that you have.
Hmm. Yep.
But yeah, and the problem with Umbraco with A/B testing, there's many A/B testing solutions out there already. There's Google Analytics Experiments, there's Optimizely, but each has a small number of problems specific to Umbraco, more or less,
Okay. Yep.
that make A/B testing a bit more difficult. So, for instance, Google Analytics Experiments, the default use case is using redirects, which works fine for small sites. But what it means for Umbraco is if you if you wanna do redirects, you need two different URLs. If
Yep.
you want to have two different URLs, you probably need to duplicate your content, including all the child nodes, so that the menu structure is preserved. And you don't really want to do that, or you don't want to do that often. And if you need to do any changes while you're running your tests on some of the child nodes, it means you're doing the work
Twice.
multiple times. Yeah. So it's not really ideal. So with uSplit, what I'm going to show you in a little bit is we kind of I'm gonna say hacked. It's not really the correct term. Let's say we extended Umbraco. That's what I
Yep.
learned at you at GoGarden. You don't hack Umbraco, you extend it. So we extended Umbraco to support server-side variations. So we got completely rid of the redirect requirement, and we can also store the data somewhere else, which is
Nice.
great. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Okay. So screen share. Let me try and get it set up. Okay. Right. Can you see my screen now?
I certainly can. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I got this small website here just for us. It's running right now, so let me flip over. So I built this small site. It's for selling these bouncy castles. You might recognize it. Have you
Yep.
been to Go Garden yourself?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so this bouncy castle was a highlight of Code Garden. I really liked it. So I was thinking about creating a small e-store, e-commerce site
Uh
selling
huh.
just
So
this castle.
you're just gonna sell bouncy castles then, Umbraco
E-
bouncy castles.
Exactly. The delivery date is not known yet. Probably will never arrive, but yeah, we'll see about that. Okay, and what I want to do here is maybe just for the demo itself, maybe I want people to click on this find out more button more often. So I'm gonna first try to change the content a little bit, and later maybe play with the template itself if we have time.
Yeah. No.
But
Sounds good.
right, but first of all, you need to get uSplit installed to your site. So let's see how that's done. So I got a site open here, and one announcement I can make right here, right now, is that we just released uSplit on the NuGet gallery.
Ah, sweet.
So installing uSplit is very easy. Let me turn off debugging and go to Package Manager console. Right. And excuse my machine because apparently it's going to be slow today.
As always, when you do a demo.
Yeah. Okay. Installed package, endzone uSplit. Okay. So now we just have to wait for a little bit. It's going to be a lot of packages, and I'm going to explain why they're all installed. So one thing to notice here is newtons of JSON.
Hmm.
For some reason, whenever I do this upgrade through NuGet, this reference, and that's the only reference, it doesn't get updated here in web config in the assembly binding section. But I'm going to touch on it later. There's going to be a helpful README popping up very shortly. I'm gonna explain some of the changes that need to be done to web config as well. For those curious of you guys, there's installing here. I got a installing and setting up uSplit blog post.
Okay,
So you
nice.
can visit this URL, just happyporch.com/installing-uSplit. And here it explains all the stuff. But we got the package installed right now, so there's two more manual steps that need to be done for the website to work. So first of them is Log4net. So unfortunately, Umbraco currently depends on Log4net version 1.2.11, if I'm not mistaken. So
Mm-hmm.
we distribute this library together with uSplit because unfortunately some of our dependencies require newer versions of Log4net. So
Okay.
we do install Log4net version 2 point something, and I think the problem there is that that version has a public key token, whereas this old version had null. So the assembly binding doesn't work for this. So you actually do need to provide two code bases right
Yeah.
now for your site. But it's as easy as just copying this and pasting it into your web config. So let me just find that section. It's down here. So just provide a second version of Log4net from Umbraco
Yep.
and README. Now there's the newtons of JSON. In cases where you already use a newer version, like version 7 or 8, you're fine. You don't have to do anything. Just in case you had version 6 installed, which basically means you didn't install any other packages, you might need to drop this in. So let me just double check because I know, because it's a demo site, this is this wrong web config, um, that there is already a reference to newtons of JSON. Yeah, here, and it's version 6, you know. So you want to replace this whole thing by version 7. And I don't think I need this, right? Okay. Right, so let's save. And now I should be able to run the site again. So we included this README because there was a lot of manual steps
Yep.
initially when I just created the Umbraco package itself. We also distribute that, by the way. If you want to install it good old back office way, we do have a package, but a lot of these things you have to set up manually,
Okay. Yeah.
like the extra Log4net library, etc. Um, this article, Installing uSplit, actually details the manual step as well. So you can download the Log4net DLL pack from here, for instance. However, these days I think the preferred way, and especially after what we've seen at Code Garden, we're probably gonna push the NuGet way of installing packages, and it
Okay.
already does more things for you. So I suggest if you want to install uSplit, you should do that. Okay. And I see we have an error. Okay, could not load file or assembly Log4net. Okay, so demo gods are not with us. Let me just double check if the library is here. Yeah, so it's probably the web config that I have an error there. Yeah, okay, I
Okay. Yes.
people have
Copied
been
in.
probably shouting at me the whole time. So this is an easy fix. Okay, let's try again. Okay, build succeeded.
There we go.
Well, that's the old version.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm not using ASS. I'm just using ASS Express with
Mhm.
Visual Studio, so that's why it's a bit slower today. So while this loads, let me just talk a bit more about uSplit. So we decided to integrate with Google Analytics experiments as well. So uSplit is great for people who are using Google Analytics. If
Okay.
you are using some other tracking tools, you can still drop in Google Analytics, and it's free, so you're not losing anything. You may be paying some overhead of downloading extra strip, but that's just the way it is. We decided to use Google Analytics experiments because they have really good analysis and reporting features, something that we wouldn't be able to build ourselves if we were to develop this tool.
Yeah.
So we just basically relay all the data to Google, and we do all the server side logic on our side. So you get best of both worlds.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, just for people to know why there's Google Analytics. Yeah, cool. So the site started. So all is good. We're on track. So now we install uSplit, but we haven't set up any experiments. As I said, it uses Google Analytics experiments. So before we actually can create our own experiment, we also need to plug in the integration with Google API and with our Google Analytics account. So just bear with me for last couple of changes.
Yep,
So
no problem.
if I go back to README, we've added 5 new app settings, and these all need to be populated before you can start using uSplit. So the app settings, they have been added to your web config file. So you just need to look them up. For some reason, I still don't know why, it just adds them like this on a single line. So, you just need to play a little bit with the formatting. And I think this is kind of a little bit out of scope of the talk. I don't want to waste too much time on this,
Hmm.
but I still want to show you where to get these from. So, first of all, this installing uSplit section is a detailed step-by-step process how to obtain these things with screenshots and everything. So it tells you where to click. I do have this prepared, so I'm using the Google API's dashboard. I'm getting credentials from my site. I already generated these OAuth2 credentials.
Yep.
So let me just grab this. I'm gonna delete all this once the demo is over. So don't try to just copy paste our stuff. Won't work for you.
Yep.
Yeah. So just dropping the client ID and the client secret. So these two things that I'm dropping in are for the Google API. Their API. They have a very rich API for all their products online, and we're using this API to access Google Analytics.
Yep.
So there's two authentications really. One is to the Google API itself. That's for uSplit to be able to talk to Google, and the other, the next three app settings here, therefore authenticating the user to their Google Analytics settings, their profile.
Yep.
So while I got these things from the Google APIs panel, and again, the link is here in the installing section.
Hmm.
The rest, the three things, I need to grab from my Google Analytics account. So again, in Google Analytics, you just open your site, go to the admin section, and for the account, for the property, and for the view, you need to grab the IDs. It's always the first option here: account settings, property settings, and view settings. So we just drill down here, I got account settings here, which I can just copy and paste here. And I'm gonna do the remaining two because I think I just got the code here. So yeah, okay. So I got those 5 properties. I think I deleted the closing tag here. So like this, save, and I can start the site again. So this should be it. So I think at this point, provided it didn't do any other copy paste errors,
Yep.
we should have uSplit installed on our site and we can start A/B testing our site. So let's see how that goes. I think we'll need to go to the back office as well. Okay, here we got a blank page.
Hmm.
So very reassuring. Ah, okay, it's just loading. It's just very
Yeah,
slow.
it's coming.
So what we built for uSplit here is a custom tree on the
Mm-hmm.
content section.
Okay.
That's by the way very similar to Andy built in his personalization package. He's also good at tree under the content section, I believe at least.
Yeah, as far as I know from memory. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And if you open this tree, you see I got already two tests. I created them in preparation for the talk, so they're just here hanging around.
Yep.
We can safely ignore them. Otherwise, when you open this, it's just going to be empty. If I click on it, it's just going to tell you, okay, you're connected to Google API and you're connected to your Google Analytics account. For me, it says both yes. For you, you're going to have no in the second checkbox, and you just need to re-authenticate. The thing is, whenever we interact with the Google Analytics account, when we submit data to Google and do changes, we need to be authenticated as a user who has access to that property, to that account.
Yep.
So for me, because I ran the demo before, I got everything authorized. But what you'll have to do is you're going to have to trigger this authentication, pick your account or pick somebody's account. It doesn't have to be yours that has access to the Google Analytics data.
Yep.
And re-authenticate with them. This is really important because most of the time it's developers who are installing this product, but maybe the developers don't have access to the marketing side of things, to the
Yeah,
Google
exactly.
Analytics data. So it's very important that whoever does have access clicks on the reauthorize button. It doesn't have to be the developer. And this section, or this tree rather, is available to anybody. I mean, depends on your permissions, but by
Mm-hmm.
default it's available. So if it's an editor who's going to be running the test and it's them who's got the access, just make sure they click on this button.
Yep.
And unfortunately, as a developer, if you don't have access, you won't be able to test all these things. But anyway, so we got two green buttons, so
Yep.
that's
We're
all
all
good.
good.
Yeah, and we can start with creating our own experiment. So just general guidelines when you're doing this kind of thing. When you're creating your experiment, you better have a good idea on what the experiment is, what the goal is, and what basically just what you're trying to achieve. So let's inspect our site and let's see what we can change. So let's say we're gonna change this too much sunshine because I think it's a lame joke and I wanna change it to something else.
Yep.
So let's have a look. As I said, we're sticking to the theme of trying to get people click more on this button. So first of all, I need to be familiar with the site. So I know, let's just find out where this text is set, right? Too much
Yep.
sunshine. So it's here under the home node, homepage. And I think it's the banner tab. Yeah, okay, too much sunshine. So
Okay.
just test title, publish. But as you can expect, it's gonna change. Test title. Okay, cool. Put it back in. So this is what we're changing. So I'm gonna click on these three dots here and create a new experiment for the homepage. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Create. And the experiment has been created. So you can see here, down here, we got a new experiment. It's in the draft stage. You can open it. And we got a draft of our experiment. Now, if I go to Google Analytics experiments, I'll see an experiment with this name.
Okay.
We prefix it in case you're running your own experiment. So we don't want to, just make a mess in your experimentation section.
Mm-hmm.
And as for any A/B experiment, you need to set up the variation. So right now we got the page under test, the home page. So that's the original page. You always include that in your tests.
Mm-hmm.
And now we need to create a new variation of this page. So as I touched briefly earlier, when you create a new variation of the page, for if you needed to have a different URL, if you did the redirects and you needed to have two instances of a page, you'd have to clone it here in the tree, have a new node section, have a new home section, probably on the same level. Or if you were just A/B testing this thing, this Umbraco's castle, you'd probably have a new page here under the home section, and things would start to get messy because you'd see two items in your menus.
Yep.
and you'd have to duplicate the content as we said. So we do things a bit differently. So first of all, before I start with this experiment, I have this suggestion. It's completely up to the people how they structure their site, but what I tend to do is I tend to create a folder here similar to the recycle bin. This is just best practices. This is not required, right? Just a suggestion.
Hmm.
So I create a new folder just like the recycle bin here that will hold the variations for us. So let me just quickly create a new document type, just to serve as a folder for the variations. So a new document type without a template, variations folder. One important thing, because I want to store all the variations data, all the variations, which is essentially all the doc types I could possibly A/B test.
Yep.
I need to make sure that I set up that I allow all the document types under this node. So I need to go to permissions and now homepage, and I'll be adding all the items here. I'm gonna test just the homepage, but let's just add these things here.
Yep. Hmm.
Okay, so we got the variations folder set up. So I need to create it here under content. Oh, I didn't allow that thing to be created under the root. My bad. So let me quickly do that again. Okay, permissions. Yeah, this can be created under the root. Perfect. So here in the content, what I like to do is just variations.
Hmm.
And the idea is you create this page or folder, and you put all the variations here, and you never render this tree ever. It's like it's not available for people. You can put it off bounds, restricted, just not have any URLs pointing to this.
Hmm. Yep.
And from now on, I can just place all the extra variations that I create of this homepage under here, so it's not in your face. It's not affecting your menu structure. Yeah, that's just what I prefer to do. But as I said, you can place the content anywhere. So when I click this, okay, so it's maybe important. So when I define the variations, I have two options. I can either clone the original page
Yep.
or I can add an existing page. What it means is, so what we do under the hood is when you render a page and it has variations, we change the content in place. I'm going to talk about it a bit later. So uh, for the variations, you just defined what are essentially overrides. If I want to change just one property, the rest of the page can remain empty, and I just need to provide text for that property. It's only going to use that property in the variation, and then it's going to use all the original values
Yep.
in the, on that page. So it's very useful if you have a very big page, complicated page with many properties. You don't have to copy paste or recreate all of them. But in case you still wanted to do that, for instance, if you had a more complicated editor and you only wanted to change a small part in that editor, let's say nested content,
Yep.
or you use Umbraco grid, so you don't want to recreate the whole grid, but it's a property on the page which needs to be like copied over.
Hmm.
So we added this button clone on, which will clone the page, including all the properties. That makes it slightly easier for you if you don't want to do all the overrides, but you want to reuse the original values. So I'm gonna pick that I wanna. Okay, so I'm cloning the original, and I need to pick the variations folder as the destination where I'm gonna clone it. So if this worked, okay, it did work. I got a new variation here. It's again, it's called home because that's how it's what the name is. And I probably need to refresh this node. Yeah, and I see the home page here.
Yep.
So this home page is our new variation. Again, from here I can just click edit and edit that variation. So just for me, so that I know, I'm just gonna name it variation 1. And as I said, we're gonna change the banner. Okay, please buy our castle. Somehow I have a feeling that this message, if I just beg our customers, our visitors, it will help. So I got this text, I got the variation. So just as a refresh, on the home page, we got, you know, on the banner, too much sunshine. On the variation, we got Please buy a castle. Okay, so now I can go back to the experiment, and I believe it's ready to go. If I'm happy with this, and there's a lot of tweaking you can do, I'm going to touch on that again a bit later. I just want to show the basic functionality.
Yep.
So let's say I'm happy with this. I published this page. By the way, it has to be published. All of these has to be published. It works with I published content. So just make sure you publish all your variations before starting. I'm just going to start the experiment. Okay, so the experiment is running. One thing I mentioned about customizing this is, for instance, the metric. I'm using the default, which is page views, but most of the time I think people will have different metrics. They wanna focus on their conversions, maybe who clicked on a button, or if there's a download link or a newsletter sign up.
Yep.
You want to target those things. A lot of people with Google Analytics use custom events. So I think what you want to do in those situations is set your metric as a to an event rather than just page views. But it's good for demos at least. So let's just stick with this. Um, Now the experiment is running, and we see that currently there's not really any data, and the weights, that's the proportion at which the page is showing to certain people, is equal, is the same, 0.5. So that we have the same chance at seeing the original page as the variation.
Yep.
So let's just have a look. It's the home page we're testing, so F5. Okay, so I just got served the same page, the same home page. It says too much sunshine, and um, notice there's no URL change. So now let me go back to Chrome, uh, and let me check here. Okay. Oh, perfect. It works straight
Cool.
away. So yeah, so here we're seeing a different title. Please buy our castle. So that's it really. So it's been what, 20 minutes maybe of the whole demo, including setup to get to a stage where we have an experiment. Notice there's no URLs, there's no redirects. I mean,
Yep.
there's no URL change, there's no redirects. Our menus still work. I mean, I'm not really that familiar with this template. I hope there's, oh yeah, so there's a menu here. So even though I'm on a variation now, the menu structure is preserved. Basically, the context of the node is preserved. And that was the tricky part. That was the implementation part that I quite enjoyed,
Yep.
uh, I should say. But it was a bit tricky. So yeah. Um, do you have
So
any questions at this
yeah,
point?
no. So let's take a look at this variation. So here, if I wanted to test the new message,
Yeah.
how easy can we change the weighting? So obviously, I can see there's a button there that says about edit.
Yeah, sure. So this
So
edit only leads to,
let's make it more likely that it's gonna be that we're gonna get the new message.
yeah. So the answer is very short. You can't do this. The reason why you can't do this is because from now on, once the experiment is running, it's really in Google's hands, and it's Google who updates these weights. By the way, they update the weights twice a day, I believe, every 12 hours.
Okay.
So that's the frequency. Well, we pull the data from Google more often than that and cache it.
Okay.
But just so you know, yeah. So the ways they're set by Google, they set by the performance as Google sees it. So once Google has enough data, he will start adjusting, or it will start adjusting these weights for you. So you have no way of controlling this, unfortunately.
Okay.
Once you start an experiment, the only thing you can do with it is stop it. We are kind of cheating. You shouldn't do that, but obviously, since this is Umbraco, we can always change the content. I can go and change the variation text now, and I'll see it propagate here.
Yep.
But it's kind of defeating the purpose. You don't want to be changing your experiment
Yeah,
once
you're
it's
gonna
running.
skew your experiment results.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's just one thing to be aware of. And also another thing, when you're testing this, you should understand that once you're served an experiment, that experiment should stick with you. That's as per Google Analytics experiments guidelines. And so to test this, you always have to just delete all your cookies, right? If we weren't, I was really dreading this part. When I was testing myself, I would always get the first variation. I know it's random, but randomness kind of can get biased at times, I guess. So So yeah, I've been refreshing like crazy, deleting all the cookies. That's not fun to watch. So hopefully we dodge that thing right now because it worked first try.
Yeah,
But you
exactly.
know, yeah. So, but if you want to test this and you're getting the first variations of the original page, don't give up. Just delete all the cookies and try again, try again, try again until you see that one working. Also, another thing, to make sure it's working, if you wanna make sure, you can just view the page source, and here there should be JavaScript inserted. Uh, where is it?
You
Okay.
insert in it towards the body at the bottom.
Uh, yeah, it should be somewhere here. I'm not seeing it right now. Um,
So this is the original source that's come from the server. Maybe do you inject it afterwards, client side?
no, we inject it in when the page is loading.
Okay.
Um, as a filter, we have a filter. Let me just double check if it's not here. Okay, I'll look into that. That's kind of important. I don't know why I'm not seeing it here, but I'll look into that in a bit, probably after the demo.
Yeah, no
The thing
problem.
is, the thing is, so we're running server side, but we still need a client to tell Google that they're running the experiment. When you're using Google Analytics, it does the asynchronous push of data to Google Analytics,
Yep.
and as part of that, it submits the variation as well. So that's done client side. So we have a I think part of this talk, if we have time, is we can touch on the code a little bit, so I can
Yeah,
show how
no,
that's done.
it's yeah, we've got still got maybe 20 minutes or so. So let's take
Okay,
a look.
yeah, perfect. So one thing that was very important for us is going open source. We went to Code Garden, and there's been a lot of talk about open source, especially now that Microsoft went open source as well. I think a lot of people in the .NET community see this as a possible strategy for their products.
Yep.
I think for us, it's really exciting to be able to do this. At Endzone.io, we're a social business. We love giving back to the people. So this just is well in line with what we believe in. And so that's why we're really excited that we decided to release uSplit as open source pretty much at the end of Code Garden, although, things are taking a bit slowly. But now, yeah, we have this repo open. If anybody's interested in helping me hunt this bug that we just encountered, or generally just looking at the code base, see how we integrate it into Umbraco, just feel free to open this GitHub page, um, and you can engage with us here.
Awesome. Yeah.
As I said, with going open source means uSplit is free. We still do sell support packages for enterprises and for people who need to like rely on the plugin. But for your average tinker or developer, the plugin is free. You can install it through NuGet as I showed you,
Hmm.
and you can engage with the community here.
Fantastic.
So um, to talk a little bit about the code, here we plug into the content pipeline. That's really
Hmm.
interesting. And we have, so as I said, all the context was preserved. When I was showing the variation page here,
Yeah.
um, right, it was here in Google Chrome. Yeah, the context menu got preserved. So I'm essentially using values. That's really interesting because if you look at the content tree here, where do we have it here? I'm rendering values from this page, right? But it still shows you the child pages of this page, of this
Okay.
home
So
page, right?
based on the response you get back from Google, you're swapping the underlying content under the hood in the content request.
Talk to Google. I got the experiments cached, so I don't call Google every time I'm serving a page. That would be
Okay.
really, yeah, that would be very risky because if there was a delay communicating with Google, I wouldn't load a page for a lot of users.
Yeah.
So that's not what we do. But if you look at the code here, we basically, so there's an algorithm that you decide who to include in your experiment and then how to pick a variation out of all your options.
Hmm.
So we follow that algorithm that's in the content pipeline here. And yeah, the algorithm is pretty much here, setup experiment. So, you're checking if we're rendering a page because we might be doing, Umbraco does all sorts of things. So the request might not be for a page.
Yep.
We need to check if there's a experiment running for this page.
Hmm.
If there's nothing, we just don't do anything. We need to check if the user has been exposed to an experiment before. If he has, we need to show that variation. If he hasn't, we're just gonna we're gonna identify whether he should participate.
Yep.
That's this part is touching on the personalization group. We've been asked by one of our clients about being able to be stricter about the segmentation. So currently Google Analytics allows you to pick a certain percentage of visitors you want to include in your experiments.
Yep.
However, there's other segmentations that you can use. Maybe you want to experiment A/B test uh, only people who came from your mailing list.
Yep.
So if you want to do that, you would have to plug in here, should visitor participate. This plugin, as I said, is fairly new,
Hmm.
so we don't have all the advanced stuff built in, but we're waiting for feedback from the community on what the required features are so that we extend the product in that direction. So if advanced segmentation is something you're after, then I'd be really keen on implementing that, and maybe I could use Andy's tool, which has a really powerful segmentation, and just plug it here, and you
Yeah, that
could
would be
use
good.
this segmentation, yeah, with this tool. But anyway, so as I said, this experiments pipeline is the most important thing. And here in the show variation, which does all the work, what we do is we swap the published content for the request,
Yeah.
and we have our own wrapper around it. It's called varied content. It just implements the I published content as usual,
Hmm.
and it only what it does is it redirects your queries to either the original page if nothing has been varied on that property level,
Yep.
or it goes to your to the variation page. And for instance, for child notes, we always redirect child notes to the original page currently.
Yep.
So that's why you're seeing the menu structure preserved. Because when you render your menus, you do like, model.content.children,
Yep. Hmm.
and in our model we just call the children of the original page. So that's why the menu structure still works. That's why the URLs work, because it executes as if it's the original page, but we
Yep.
just swap the published content here. So that's how the variations work. And you can look
Awesome.
up the yeah, you can look up the uh, varied content property, here in the model section. Oops, and it's just a very boring. It's using the new C#6 features,
Yep.
like this arrow thing, and it's just redirecting all these properties either to the original or sometimes to the overridden page. I think in the constructor I just go through all the properties to identify which have been overridden or not, and then it's just a basic mapping class.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So, is there any way for, I think you mentioned at the beginning, that we can modify some of this stuff in the templates? So, how would I go about
Yeah.
using some of the APIs in the templates
Yes.
to serve different, slightly different markup? Maybe it's not coming from
Huh?
content, or we're applying a different CSS class, make the button
Exactly.
red or something.
hmm So that's a really important question. Well, so first of all, the aim of the plugin, I probably didn't say that at the beginning, is to help the editors to make as easy um, changes as possible. If they want to run a very simple A/B test,
Hmm.
anybody can click a bunch of buttons that I just clicked, and you saw the experiments kicked in immediately. No coding was required.
Yep.
That's kind of the selling point, or where we're aiming the product at. However, that being said, we have had a client who asked us, hey, maybe we want to move some elements around in our A/B tests,
Yeah.
and we definitely do support this. However, as you would normally expect, you would need developers' help with this because you need to touch the templates.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so yeah. So, maybe that comes as an obvious thing. I just don't want people, just want to manage people's expectations. There's certain things that we can do for you, and that's once you need to touch code. So if you do need to do that, yeah, we do support it. So let me have a look. Let's go to the settings. Okay, I think I can discard all the changes here. Open up the template layout. Okay, let me actually, you know what? Let me do it the proper way, Visual Studio way. So, yeah, I got this project, and let's play with the banner,
Yep.
maybe, or yeah, let's just inject something here. Doesn't matter. Okay, so I'll add a new row here into the main page. So this is body. This is the body page.
Yep.
This is the this is the body of the home page. And let's say I want to change something. Uh, so because I'm worried we don't have that much time, I'm not gonna go and like change colors and everything. I don't know,
Yep.
but I'm just gonna print a small piece of text here to demonstrate. Yeah, I can change the template. So I actually have a piece of code prepared here, just here. Um, yeah, this thing I've written like yesterday midnight. So excuse the code quality, the poor code quality. For instance, like I'm using all the namespaces here. You could just add a using statement, whatever, but
Yep.
it's just a proof of concept.
It gets the point
So
across.
yeah, so what we're doing here is I'm inspecting my model.content property and I'm looking at its type.
Okay.
And if the type is my varied content, I know in a variation, right? So that's
Yep.
your first check. Like, am I working with varied content? Is this a variation? Is an experiment running? And if it is, then you can just cast the content to varied content because you just did a check here, and you can get a variation ID. That's how Google Analytics work. They give you a sequential number, like from
Hmm.
0 to n,
Yep.
for every experiment, and that's how you identify what experiment you're on. So I would imagine if you do any content changes or template changes, for experiments, you would just have a really ugly anti-pattern, just a switch case for all your variations.
Yep.
And I think it's fine because these things, they just run for a few days. So, having this anti-pattern here might even, make for a little bit of fun in the office. I don't know. So I saved it and let's see if it prints the correct variation ID. So let me go here. I should see variation 0. Yeah, okay, so it's varied and I got ID 0. That's the original page.
Yep.
And if I go here and click refresh, yeah, okay, I got varied and ID 1. So I've identified that I'm on the first variation. So right now it's just easy. I would save this into a variable and do just an if statement or case switch and change the content here. So if I didn't want to render the features, for instance, I can just add if statement. If the variation is 1, just don't render it, and that's it.
Okay.
So yeah. So and I think I think as much as we like the idea of content based, I think there's gonna be like changing the templates is gonna be a very requested feature.
Yes.
So it's quite likely that in going forward we will add some useful extension methods, for instance, to simplify this. Instead of all this, maybe I can imagine we could return like a nullable integer with the variation ID or null if there's no experiment. And
Yep.
then you don't have to worry about the types, about nothing, and you get a number out of there anyway. So just simplify it a lot from the code.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, I can imagine this being, like you say, a requested feature from clients because they might go, "Oh, I think that it's going to look better if we have a massive red button. Can you apply that to
Yeah,
the design?"
yeah. Yeah. And like sometimes some people have like color properties in their doc types.
Mhm.
We don't always do that. Most of the clients we work with, the work, they have designers in house, so
Yep.
the design is very strict and I don't think they would allow anything like this customization, but yeah, they would be the ones, the designers who would come up with the variations.
Yeah,
And then
I
they
think that we might get more conversions on that buy now button if it
yeah.
was red as opposed to this very subtle gray or something.
Yeah, yeah. Or I've seen people ask, "Hey, can we maybe move the newsletter sign up field to the top and see how that performs?"
Yep.
Or another often tested thing is maybe you have some like a complex site structure or navigation and you want to simplify a little bit and see if it helps people navigate around your site.
Hmm.
So maybe doing something like that, maybe creating a new navigation for your site and just testing them side by side is something useful as well.
Definitely. Is there anything else that you want to kind of cover or talk about?
Well, there's a lot of interesting things we had to touch on while we were working on uSplit, like for instance the integration with Google.
Hmm.
So as I said, it was OAuth version 2, and there's a lot of redirects involved in this. So
Yep.
you go to Google, you basically redirect the user, the visitor of the back office to Google to authenticate. I can
Yep.
show you here, like when I clicked on that button. Um, and this takes you completely, the address is Google. I left the site, so I authenticate, and it sends to,
And then you have to redirect back.
yeah. But so this Google integration comes with a package, a NuGet package. There's a lot installed now. You see all these Google API packages. There's a lot of
Hmm.
them,
Yep.
and they do the authentication for you. They Here MVC4, it comes with a controller that you just need to redirect to, which sets all the state internally, so you don't have to worry about this. But we're working with Umbraco, which has its own URL structure.
Yep.
Um, and so I had to, in order to support this, I had to create my own controller to uh, to enforce the Umbraco authentication so that this callback method can be executed by anybody. And also I need to change the routing to allow this callback to be called, this controller.
Hmm.
See, there's Umbraco authorized around this controller. There's a lot of Google stuff, this flow metadata.
Yep.
I probably don't even understand this myself anymore, but there's a root config here. Um, yeah, just getting into just getting that work with Umbraco. Sometimes, as I said, the features undocumented. What I find is the best documentation these days is just Umbraco source code.
Yes, yeah,
So,
it is. It's hard to keep every tiny little change
mhm,
documented and updated, but yes, documentation is getting better. I know from them.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Okay. I don't know. I think demo-wise, it's pretty
no, I think it
complete.
was pretty good.
Yeah, I just wanted to show people how easy it is to get set up and working. As I said, that JavaScript code, I know where it disappeared. I'm going to look into that as well.
Hmm.
This plugin is very new, so we're always looking for feedback. If you have any, if you tried it, you didn't manage to install it, you installed it, it wasn't working on your site,
Yep.
we're here, happy to help, keen to hear experiences from people.
Mhm.
So if there's something you would like to share with us, please feel free. Do.
Yeah, awesome.
Source code is open, so we're open for contributions. If you
So,
wanna,
have you
Mhm.
reached out to people like Andy or
you know,
Theo?
no, I have not. I haven't yet done that. I just moved to Canada, to Vancouver. It's my first week here. I'm really happy.
Awesome.
I have a roof under my head, just so that I can do this call. So, things are a bit hectic here.
No, fantastic.
And just during the move, I've been releasing this as open source. So, yeah, there's still a lot of work we need to do on this front. But yeah, if there's anybody watching who sees value in this, wants to help us, develop it, or just hear more about this, I'm happy. So happy to talk about it. So you can
Excellent.
find me at Ondrej at endzone.io, or
Fantastic.
on Twitter, Ondrej Pialek.
Excellent. Thanks so much for your time today, and thanks for the demo. It was an
Yeah.
awesome, it's a nice A/B testing tool, and
Mhm.
I'm sure quite a few Umbraco developers out there are gonna start installing it and start giving you feedback.
All right. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
No, no problem. Have a great day,
Yeah,
and
you
you can crawl back to bed now.
too. Probably will do. All right.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.